Hey, it's Brock here with Rock Hill Farms, and today I want to talk about tractor top links and all of the different options that we have to connect the top link on our tractor to an implement, and why it matters. So, when I got this Moschio flail mower, it came with its own kind of proprietary floating top link system. And after putting quite a few hours on it, I've kind of grown to see that there are pros and cons to it. Kind of like everything else. You know, I don't yet know what the title of this video will be, but if it's something that comes across authoritative, like a complete guide to top links or something like that, it doesn't mean I think I'm the world's foremost expert. It just means I think this conversation deserves to be discussed with a little bit of nuance. Because what I tend to see is definitive statements that oversimplify things, such as hydraulic top links are the best. Well, there are definitely advantages to a hydraulic top link, but I would say there are also some disadvantages. And also I get comments like, you're an idiot, you should be using a chain for a top link when bush hogging. Well, I think there's a little nuance to it. There are advantages to using a chain, and there are disadvantages. And so I just want to go into all that and try to make it into one concise video if possible. So first, real quick, if you're completely new to tractors, what is the purpose of a top link? So, generally a rear implement or a 3-point attachment will have 3 points of contact with your tractor. You've got your lower lift arms that connect in 2 spots at the bottom of your attachment, and they raise and lower. But if you only had those, it's going to raise and lower the front, which means all you're going to do is tilt your implement backward. So you need something connected to the higher point on the tractor to a higher point on the attachment, so that when you raise and lower, it doesn't just tilt, it actually raises and lowers. Pretty much all tractors come with something that looks like this. This is what I'm calling a fixed top link for purposes of the video. Even though it's not fixed, there's some kind of a nut or a fastener on one end, and you take that loose, you can adjust this to different lengths. But it's fixed in that while you're operating the tractor, it stays the same length. That's the most common setup, and it works, but it's not perfect. So as I talked about nuance, one other way that people lack nuance is just to say, read the owner's manual. And that this is what your tractor manufacturer provided you for a reason. Well, every tractor manufacturer does provide this for a reason, but that doesn't make it the best thing. So, pros and cons to a fixed top link. One big pro, it is free. You already have it. It came with your tractor. And it does the job in most cases. Now, what is a negative to it? When your tractor runs, it does not always run on flat ground. You're going to have bumps and hills, even if they're small bumps, say in a driveway, and your tractor is going to be moving like this. So at whatever angle your tractor moves with a fixed top link, your attachment moves at that same angle. So does this. In the case of fixing a driveway, you've got a little bump. When you go over that little bump, the back of the tractor lifts, the back of the implement lifts, and if it's a box blade, you dump rock right there where you don't want it. And then you come off that bump and it drops down. And it makes it more difficult to get a flat grade with a fixed top link. Same thing if you're brush cutting. You go through a dip or over a little hill or any kind of unlevel ground, you don't necessarily want that brush cutter to follow the movement of the tractor. Now, most brush cutters have their own type of floating mechanism built into it, and we'll look at that in a second. But just know your first option is free but doesn't have a lot of flexibility. Next option, hydraulic top link. I love my hydraulic top link, but there are some pros and cons to it. So one big negative to a hydraulic top link, they're not cheap. You're going to spend probably at least a couple $100s on it, and you got to get hoses for it. And bigger than that, I mean, as far as tractors go, like $200 is not a big expense. Everything on a tractor is expensive. But you also have to have third function hydraulics run to the back of the tractor and some type of a controller inside the tractor that allows you to manipulate that hydraulic cylinder. So if your tractor is not already set up for that, then you've got to accommodate those needs. You may spend thousands of dollars adding rear remote hydraulics, and it's just a factor to consider. Advantage is versatility. So with your fixed top link, when you go over that bump, the only option you have is to be constantly raising and lowering to match the grade. So you're just moving your 3-point lever around to match whatever type of ground conditions you're going over. With the hydraulic top link, you've got the option to very quickly change the length of your top link. So when you shorten your top link, your rear attachment angles like this. And when you lengthen it, it angles like this. And that allows you to do a lot of different things. For example, when I'm brush cutting around the pond, I can extend my top link and drop that brush cutter. So the tractor's flat, I can drop the brush cutter down at an angle and have it mowed down the bank of the pond. The negative to that versatility is hydraulic cylinders can actually bleed down. And it's not something I find happens a lot while the tractor's running, but it is a factor that if you want your attachment to remain level, when you set it with a fixed top link and then start running, you know it doesn't change as long as you tighten the nut up. With this, because I can adjust it, it means that I have to adjust it. So it is something that you're messing with a little bit more. But overall, I consider a hydraulic top link to be a big upgrade over a fixed top link. The next option is using a chain for a top link. So you just cut a length of chain that is the length you want it, and you put the pin through it on this end. You might need some kind of a shackle on the end, and then you attach it to the top of your implement. Now you have a top link that will limit how far back your implement goes, but you have no control over tilting it forward. So the advantage to this, or when would you want to use this? You primarily want to use this when you want the back of your implement to rest on the ground. One example of that is a landscape rake. Landscape rakes are not that heavy, so they don't really gouge into the ground. So you can put a longer chain on it, and you can drag rock with the landscape rake, and the tines are resting on the ground, and you just drag them around that way. And they perfectly follow the ground, and they will smooth out bumps a lot better, really, than in any of the other options. The negative to it is it's kind of like having a fixed top link in that you have to get off. If you decide you want to change the angle of that, you have to get off and manually change it. And it's going to be probably the most time-consuming way. But there are a lot of scenarios where a chain is a good option. Another really popular time that people like to use a chain for a top link is with a brush cutter, because it allows the brush cutter to follow hilly terrain. Now, so a negative to it. When I brush cut, I like to change that angle for different circumstances. It depends. If it's a flat open field, or if this is an area that you're cutting that has a lot of obstacles that you have to deal with. There may be a pile of brush over there, or you know that this acre over here is kind of rocky, and say whenever I'm going over that, I like to lift it up and go over it. I like to drop it down around the pond. I want to change my angle. So in that scenario, the hydraulic top link is better than the chain. But like I said earlier, if I'm running a hydraulic top link while brush hogging, I'm moving my hydraulic top link fairly often and watching back and moving it. Whereas with the chain, you can almost just drive and you just get what you get, and it works pretty well. So I think it's a good option for that. Another benefit to it is it's inexpensive. A short piece of chain doesn't cost very much. Now, if you're pulling something like a plow, a chain's not going to work very well for you because you want that to be held at a certain angle, and the chain's not going to do that. So it's all about what you're doing. The last type of top link that I want to talk about is a floating top link. And there are two versions of that that come to mind. First, let's look at the one on the brush cutter. As I go through all of this, there are going to be some really smart people in the comments pointing out things that I might have missed or misstated. So be sure to leave your comments and then read through the comment section and see what else there is to be learned there. So this I would describe as a floating, kind of a backup floating option for your 3-point. A brush cutter sticks out, in general, sticks out much further back behind the tractor than any other attachment that I use. And as such, going through a big valley or something, you're much more likely to kind of get in a bind and have the attachment pushing up into the tractor. And this mechanism right here kind of compensates for that and allows the back of the brush cutter to get pushed up some without putting so much of a force onto your top link, and kind of a safety mechanism. So this is another type of floating top link that is different than anything else I own. Now Mashio is not the only one who uses something like this, but it's unique out of the implements I have. In that, right now, normally your top link would hook here, but instead it's hooked here and we have this link. That link can allow this pivot point on your top link to swing a long way back here. And basically what that does when you're using it, it almost turns your fixed top link into a chain top link in how it behaves. At least that's the way it seems to me. So this Mashio flail mower has a big roller on the back of it that you want to be engaging the ground. So basically, I set that roller on the ground and then lower my 3-point down until I'm at a decent cut height. And then this floating action on this link right here essentially allows the flail mower to follow the contour of where I'm mowing. A lot like a chain does on a brush hog. And it works well, but I wasn't 100% sold on it, and it may just be that I'm not used to it. But basically what it did was turn my hydraulic top link into a fixed top link. Or it made, the hydraulic top link made almost no difference, because the range of motion on my hydraulic lever is only slightly more than the range of motion on this link. So there were scenarios where I thought, okay, this area of ground's rocky and I don't want my hammers to hit rocks, so I'd like to tilt the top link, the flail mower back. And I couldn't, because all of my travel here, I could tilt it a little bit, but not as much as I wanted to, because all of my travel here was just absorbed by this. So using this, it really just makes your attachment float, and you either like that or you don't. Let's actually lift this up and cycle a little bit and show you what this looks like in practice with a hydraulic top link and this floating link. So right now, my hydraulic top link is all the way retracted and the mower is sitting level. I'm not able to tilt this back because that extra link makes my top link too long now. If I was hooked directly to this spot further back, then I could tilt the mower like this. Not that I necessarily want to, but you have that option. So this is the maximum amount of backward tilt that I can get. And it's the difference between the swing on the floating link and the length of the extension on my top link. For this attachment, that's probably fine, like maybe just let it float. But just wanted to kind of show you how that operates. So there really wasn't anything groundbreaking there. It's just my thoughts and experiences on the different options you have. My favorite thing is a hydraulic top link, and I think for some instances, a chain or one of these floating links may be the best. But if you don't mind getting off your tractor a little bit, there's nothing that you can't do with a fixed link. So anyway, I appreciate you taking time to watch this video. I'll put links on the screen to a couple more of our videos, and I'll see you next time.